When I became auditor, I became the first auditor in Missouri history to do a follow-up program. We put in a grading system, which was also a first. Everybody gets either an excellent, good, a fair, or poor, under very specific defined criteria which are on our website and in our audits. If the entity we're auditing gets what I call a low, fair, or poor, we come back 90 days later and do a follow-up just to see and ensure, for the taxpayers' purposes, that these recommendations are being implemented and that the cost savings and other recommendations that we've made are being implemented. And we've now issued over 40 follow-up reports since I'm an auditor. We've had a lot of compliance, significant compliance with our recommendations more than ever before. So we think it's been a very successful program, and we're here today to talk about our follow-up at the St. Louis City School. I've got Spence Jackson here as our media director, and if you have any further questions or want to talk to me afterwards, we can arrange for that. Mark Johnson here, staff attorney, he helped with the follow-up review. Mark Reether, who is our audit manager, who is in charge of this audit. He's now been promoted, so this will be the last time he's doing that, and he does a great job. When we released our audit in September of 2013, we rated it fair. There were 18 areas we thought needed improvement, including sub-findings. And what we're doing now is we're going to let you know 4 categories relative to the implementation of the audit recommendations. Either they have been implemented, which means that it's been fully implemented, that what we recommended is now completely in place and it's finished. In progress means there has been a commitment by the school district to implement, but it just takes longer than 90 days. And some of the things that we found in the last audit, as you know, are complex and obviously would take more than 3 months to remedy. So in progress is good. That means they're going to do it, and there's been significant progress toward the final result, but they just aren't there yet because there hasn't been enough time. Partially implemented is the entity has decided to do some of the things that we recommended, but decided not to do other things. So that's less satisfactory to our office if something is partially implemented. That means there is not a commitment to implement all the recommendations as part, and then not implemented means they're just not going to do it. Unfortunately, we don't have that situation here. We have had that a couple of times, but that's highly unusual. People completely ignore our recommendations. So what I'm going to do is go through the major findings of the previous audit, not all 18, the major ones, and let you know what the status is right now relative to implementation. As you recall from the first audit, the first thing we wanted to talk about was the financial condition. The district had a deficit fund balance of $55 million on June 30, 2011. It had managed to obtain a positive fund balance, but that was largely due to a settlement. It was a one-time infusion of money. And we were concerned that over the long term, there would be problems maintaining fiscal stability within the district. We recommended that the Special Administrative Board monitor this financial situation and take the steps to ensure that the long-term funding of the district was good and that it would be solvent for the foreseeable future. As a result of our audit, and by the way, I wanted to compliment Dr. Adams. They actually put the audit compliance steps on their website. We think that's a really good thing, so all the people can see the compliance, so you can see that on their actual school district website. They did approve a fund balance policy. If the unrestricted fund balance falls below a set limit under a formula they develop, the Special Administrative Board will start replenishing it with a series of actions that they've been outlining. So we think that this has been implemented. We believe that they understand the need for long-term solvency, that they've taken steps to ensure that it is solvent, and that they're going to be monitoring the situation very closely and not relying on one-time settlements. So we're pretty pleased with the action so far in that area. Second area we found, which was very important, and I think probably received the most interest among the public, was student promotion and retention. There were at-risk students who really were reading way below grade level, who were being promoted to the next grade, when we believe that under state law that was not permitted. I think we pointed out hundreds of students that were promoted that really should have been promoted according to state law. That one is in progress. That means that the district has developed policies and procedures to change that, but obviously when you have a lot of underperforming kids, it's going to take time to get that fully implemented. There's a strategies and timeline for compliance, which they posted. They expect the completion of all the action steps to implement our recommendation by June 30th this year. That's pretty quick. And we're hopeful then that after June 30th, we won't find students who are not supposed to be promoted being promoted, and there will be more going to summer school, and summer school students will be more closely monitored for promotion. So we're optimistic that within the next few months that will be fully implemented, and that's good news. Education programs, we pointed out that there were 1,000 programs, various programs from leadership to other areas which help students improve their lives, and that the district was only monitoring about 10 a year. I think I pointed out, somebody quoted it, it would take literally 100 years to monitor all the programs if that were the case. We recommended that the district evaluate all educational programs, update its accountability plan. Those recommendations are in process. They have updated their evaluation procedural plan. Now, since they become provisionally accredited, they're not actually required to have an accountability plan anymore, but they did replace it with what's called a comprehensive district improvement plan, which is similar but with new goals. We think that will be approved shortly, and we believe that now there will be better and more consistent monitoring of various programs. And our audit report has more detail on that particular finding, but we are satisfied that appropriate progress is being made in those areas. Testing. We're very concerned about the failure to follow up on Missouri Association program MAP testing quality assurance monitoring. You know, across the country, there has been an increase in cheating on tests. It's been documented in many school districts. And the district here had a good program of putting monitors in place to ensure that doesn't happen. But then we found that once that program was in place, over 100 monitoring reports had not been returned. So we really weren't able to verify that there had been flawless testing or whether there had been cheating or not. And we were concerned that lack of follow-through on monitoring could be a real problem for the district. We recommended adequate documentation, follow-up to ensure that monitors timely submit all monitoring forms, which is in progress. They said in spring 2014, take a look, you'll see all the monitors will return their forms and will be 100% compliant with the monitoring requirements. I think that's very, very important. And so we'll take a look at that, but they've committed to that, and I think it will happen. We also recommended the district identify and investigate unusual testing occurrences. Now, this is one of the very few of our recommendations that I list as partially implemented, meaning they're not going to implement everything that we recommend, only part. They are going to improve their plan for identifying suspicious situations, unusual testing occurrences, anomalies where maybe one school goes way up one year, it looks strange, it's hard to explain how that would happen. But they are not going to investigate those occurrences. They are going to refer it to DESI. That's what they decided to do. We would prefer that there be some investigations done on the site, but we at least are happy that partially, part of what we asked for is going to be implemented. Purchasing policies and procedures was another area we were concerned with. They did not always competitively bid goods and services, routinely solicit requests for proposals for professional services. We recommended that there be better competitive bidding situations, and that if there's going to be a sole source procurement, and there are times when there really is only one vendor that can provide the service, it just wasn't documented in the past. We don't require competition all the time. We just want to be clear that when there isn't competition, why wasn't there competition? Maybe there's only one entity that's qualified. Maybe the technical ability on computer services, for example, only one company has that technical ability. You just need to document it. It wasn't documented. That recommendation is in progress. The good news is the district has updated its purchasing manual, developed a very detailed training schedule for its employees to do contracting, and begun to advertise bidding opportunities on a weekly basis in local publications. So we're satisfied, they got the message, and that the district will be getting the best value for its money in future purchases. Number 6, contracts and disbursements. There have been no cost analysis to determine, for example, it would be more economical to perform certain services in-house, legal services and others, and other service contracts were not modified. We recommended the cost analysis be performed, and also there have been some contracts where there were significant contracts and there was no written agreement. Obviously, when you're dealing with those types of contracts, you want to have them in writing. Again, the status is in progress, meaning the district has fully committed to implementing our recommendation and taking concrete steps toward that. A cost analysis, they already did indicate that we get to $500,000 a year savings in legal services, but that decision was on hold pending reappointment of the Special Administrative Board, whose tenure ends in June 2014. But we think that everybody's going to be taking a look at that. As I said, the district has updated its purchasing manual, which is a great training schedule, and we feel that that's going to really result in better contracting practices for the district. We also were concerned the district may have misclassified retired former employees as independent contractors, that they did not properly report monthly vehicle allowances, and that they were not following IRS guidelines in that respect. In this case, they fully implemented our recommendation already. The district no longer employs the people who were given those contracts or provide vehicle allowances. They're just going to be mileage on a mile-by-mile basis, and they are going to follow IRS guidelines going forward. So we consider that fully implemented, and we're happy about that. Number 7, Sunshine Law. We were concerned about the failure to report some decisions made in closed meetings. There's a requirement that the results of those meetings be discussed publicly, even if the actual deliberations are not discussed publicly. We recommended that there be better compliance with the Sunshine Law. That's kind of one of my themes since I'm an auditor. There are situations, of course, where people need to deliberate in confidence in public entities. We recognize that not everything can be public, but there's a presumption that everything is public. And the exceptions need to be narrow and carefully defined, and it needs to be very clear why the public did not have access to certain information. And that was not happening in the district. And by the way, we find that in a lot of our audits. I'd say 30 to 40% of our audits have Sunshine Law problems. We've really made a commitment to try to improve compliance with the Sunshine Law. We recommended that they improve their processes. The district has said they will ensure all closed session votes and actions are disclosed, discussions are allowable, meeting minutes are now available on the website too, which is really good. That provides much needed transparency in the district's deliberations. Our next finding was relative to the Patrick Henry Elementary School follow-up. You may recall one of the very first audits we did when I became auditor was an investigation into attendance inflation at Patrick Henry. I think we proved beyond any reasonable doubt that there was attendance inflation, and we're pleased that the district has decided to refund $145,000 in taxpayer money, which was the high end of what would have been overcharged as a result of that attendance non-compliance. So we're very pleased they decided to do that. That's extra money in the coffers for taxpayers that can be used to educate children going forward. $145,000 may not seem like a lot on a state budget of $24 to $25 billion, but think what you can do in terms of educating kids with $145,000. So we're very pleased with that decision to reimburse that money. Number 9 in our findings was audit functions. We were concerned that they had an auditor of their own, and that auditor had made many recommendations that we didn't include in our report that we found to be very useful and helpful. We recommend they implement those. That's in progress. The district has already implemented several recommendations. Some will require additional board approval, but there may need to be some funding for those, but it looks like the district is well on its way to complying with that. So that's a summary of the big findings that we had. I think I mentioned to all of you, or I think Spence mentioned this would be a very short press conference. We are very pleased with what has been done. We are very confident that virtually everything we asked to be done will be done within the next few months. And this puts the school system on a better financial footing. They're going to be getting better value for their money, better value for their services, better value for their contracts. Students are not going to be promoted who shouldn't be promoted and who can't read. And I think it's been a positive situation. The audit started out a little rough. I think I mentioned that in the last press conference. There was some tension between my office and the school district. I can say that any of that is completely evaporated. We have been working cooperatively and collaboratively for one purpose, which is to improve the quality of education for students in the St. Louis City schools. I think we're going in that direction. I do not envy the very difficult job that Dr. Adams has. We're very pleased with the cooperation he and his staff have exhibited, and we're confident that as a result of this painful process, which audits always are, everybody has achieved improvement. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.